We hesitated before this one, not because it was loud or dramatic, but because the room it began in was quiet in a way that makes people lie more carefully. Some stories announce themselves. This one waited. Elena Parker was not the loudest person in the room that morning. She was the one everyone spoke about. This is where she begins. I noticed the clock first. Not the time, just the sound it made when the second hand stalled and jumped. The courtroom felt too small for how confident my sister sounded. She isolated him. Madeline's attorney said, palms flat on the rail. She controlled access, finances, and information. Madeline leaned forward beside him. Her eyes were wet in a way that looked practiced. We tried to see him. She wouldn't let us. My father didn't wait for an opening. She decided everything. We were pushed out. The judge turned to me. Ms. Parker, you're the respondent. Do you deny these allegations? I stood. My knees felt steady, which surprised me. Yes, Your Honor, I deny them in full. A pause. Our evidentiary response has already been filed with the court. My sister turned, just enough to see my face. Filed. Her voice cracked on the word. Her lawyer frowned. What response? I didn't look at him. The complete one. For a moment, no one spoke. The clerk adjusted a stack of papers. The judge skimmed the docket. From the back row, a man in a plain gray suit stood. He didn't rush. He didn't smile. Jonathan Miles, he said. Hawthorne National Bank. The judge nodded once. Successor trustee. Yes. Your Honor. Something shifted then. Not panic, not relief. More like gravity finally doing its job. We watch a lot of families reach this moment, when confidence drains out of the room and no one knows where to put their hands. I felt my father looking at me. The old look, the one that expected me to fix it. I didn't. When the judge asked for the sealed exhibits, I sat back down. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't check it. If this story stays with you, you'll understand why some silences are chosen. The judge leaned forward, reading without expression. Papers slid across the bench. The sound was soft, but it landed heavy. Ms. Parker, he said, you're asking the court to unseal documents submitted by the successor trustee. Yes, Your Honor. Madeline's chair scraped back. This is a probate matter. We haven't been served anything. Her lawyer lifted a hand, half calming, half annoyed. We've seen no notice of a trustee filing. Jonathan Miles stepped closer to the rail. Not rushed, not apologetic. The filings were submitted under seal. 48 hours ago, in compliance with local probate rules. The judge looked over his glasses. That's accurate. The clerk confirms receipt. My mother's fingers twisted in her lap. She kept smoothing the sleeve of her jacket like it might crease under pressure. My father leaned back, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the bench. Madeline turned to me. You didn't tell us. I met her look. You didn't ask. Her breath caught, not a sob, something sharper. The judge tapped the folder once. I'm unsealing the record. The room felt different after that. Quieter, like everyone was waiting for something solid to fall. Jonathan opened his briefcase and set the documents down. Careful, almost respectful. This court is now in possession of the trust instrument. The judge said, including amendments. My father shifted. Amendments. I watched his hands. They were shaking. I'd seen that before. Usually when the numbers stopped working and there was no one left to blame. The judge read silently for longer than anyone expected. Pages turned. A pause. Then another page. Madeline leaned toward her attorney. This isn't real. It can't be. He didn't answer right away. His eyes were locked on the document Jonathan had placed on the rail. When he finally spoke, it was quieter. It's an irrevocable trust. My father straightened. He couldn't change it. Jonathan's voice cut in, even and precise. The original instrument reserved Mr. Caldwell's right to amend and restate during his lifetime, subject to capacity certification. The judge nodded once. That reservation is explicit. Madeline shook her head. You never told me there was a trust. I didn't turn toward her. You told everyone there wasn't. Her lawyer looked at her then. Really looked. You said the estate plan was informal. She swallowed. That's what Dad said. My father's mouth opened, then closed. He stared at the table like it might explain itself. The judge cleared his throat. The court notes an amended and restated trust executed prior to the decedent's death. Jonathan slid another page forward, including a no contest clause. The word landed wrong in the room. Too clean. Too final. Madeline laughed once, sharp. That doesn't apply. We're just asking for oversight. The judge didn't look up. The clause is broad. Any challenge to capacity or validity triggers forfeiture. Her lawyer stood. Your Honor, we withdraw the petition. The judge's hand stopped him mid-motion. The petition was filed and docketed. Jonathan added, and it alleges incapacity. Silence pressed in. My mother's breathing went shallow. My father rubbed his palms together like he was cold. Madeline turned toward me, eyes wide now. You knew. I kept my hands folded. I asked you to wait. She looked back at her lawyer, then at the judge, then at the papers. Her voice dropped. How much Jonathan answered without looking at her. All interest. The judge closed the folder. Proceed. The word forfeiture kept echoing, dull and loud at the same time. While the judge moved on, my mind slid backward, the way it always did when my father went quiet. I was 14 when they sat me at the kitchen table. My jaw was wrapped, swollen, numb. The house smelled like coffee that had been reheated too many times. We lost everything, my father said, pacing. The company, the contracts. My mother stared at the sink. We didn't have a choice. He stopped in front of me. That surgery cost $14,850. I tried to speak. My mouth wouldn't cooperate. If we hadn't spent that money, he went on, we could have floated the quarter. My mother nodded like it hurt her to agree. We'll manage. We just need you to understand. I understood. I nodded. I swallowed gauze and blame and let it settle. Years blurred after that. Rent checks written from my account. Grocery runs when their cards declined. Utilities switched into my name. My father driving leased cars and talking about cash flow like it was temporary. My mother planning lunches she couldn't afford and asking me to cover them later. You're good with numbers, my father would say. You always were. Back in the courtroom. His chair creaked. He leaned toward Madeline. We can fix this. She shook her head. Barely. He said you handled it. Jonathan's voice pulled me forward again. The amendment was executed lawfully. The judge asked, and capacity. Jonathan nodded. Certified. My mother finally looked at me. Her eyes searched for something familiar, the version of me that used to pay and apologize and stay quiet. I didn't give it to her. The clerk called the next item. Papers moved. The room breathed again. I stayed still, not frozen, just finished. Madeline stood so fast her chair tipped back. The sound cut through the room. This isn't about money, she said, voice rising. She abused him. The word hung there, heavy, careful. My father nodded like he'd been waiting. She kept us out, changed the locks, controlled who saw him. The judge lifted a hand. Ms. Parker, these are serious allegations. Madeline pressed forward. Christmas Eve. We went there. We stood on the porch. She wouldn't let us in. My mother found her voice then. We just wanted to see him. He was dying. I felt my chest tighten. Not panic. Something colder. The judge turned to me. Ms. Parker. I didn't answer right away. I let the silence sit, long enough for the clerk to stop typing. My father leaned toward me, low and urgent. Say something. Fix it. Jonathan shifted beside the rail. He didn't speak. He waited. Madeline kept going. She isolated him. She made him afraid of us. I looked at the judge. Your Honor, these statements aren't accurate. Do you deny them? Yes. The judge glanced at Jonathan. Does the trustee have a response? Jonathan opened his briefcase. The latch clicked softly. We do, he said, but it requires the court's patience. The judge nodded. Proceed. Madeline crossed her arms. Jaw tight. My father stared at the table. I folded my hands and watched Jonathan set the first exhibit down. I had waited for this part. Jonathan placed a worn leather notebook on the rail. It didn't look dramatic. No ribbon. No seal. Just something used. This is Mr. Caldwell's personal ledger, he said, kept in a safe deposit box. Madeline scoffed. A diary doesn't prove anything. Jonathan didn't react. He opened to a marked page. It establishes state of mind. The judge leaned forward. Proceed. Jonathan read. March 12th. Madeline's birthday. Called her in the morning. Voicemail. No return call. Madeline shifted. That doesn't mean Jonathan raised a hand. Calm. The entry is paired with available cellular billing records. 1 outgoing call. No incoming calls that day. My mother's lips pressed together. He turned the page. June 19th. Father's Day. Richard said he would stop by after golf. My father's chair creaked. No visit recorded. Jonathan continued. No incoming calls. 1 text sent by Mr. Caldwell that evening asking if he was still coming. The judge looked up. Was there a reply? Jonathan shook his head. Madeline's arms tightened across her chest. We were busy. Jonathan nodded once and turned again. December 24th, 11:45 p.m. My stomach clenched. Mr. Caldwell wrote that Richard and Susan arrived intoxicated, loud knocking, shouting. His heart rate spiked. He asked Elena to keep the door locked. My father stood. That's not what happened. Jonathan placed another page beside the ledger. Medical logs show elevated heart rate. A partially initiated emergency call appears on the billing record at 11:48 p.m., terminated when the disturbance ended. The room went still. Jonathan closed the notebook. Ms. Parker did not isolate him. She protected him. The judge sat back, silent. Madeline stared at the ledger like it might look back. I felt the air change, not relief. Something heavier, like the truth settling where noise had been. Madeline shook her head hard, like she could clear the room that way. He wasn't in his right mind. Everyone knew that. The judge looked up. On what basis he was on medication? He mixed up names. He didn't understand what he was signing. Jonathan didn't interrupt. He reached into his briefcase and set down a thin folder. Then another. 2 independent forensic psychiatric evaluations. He said, conducted the morning the trust was amended. Madeline laughed, sharp and brittle. You paid doctors to say that. Jonathan opened the first report. The evaluations cost $18,600, paid directly by Mr. Caldwell. My father leaned forward. That's not possible. Jonathan slid copies of the checks across the rail. Signed by the decedent. Cleared. The judge scanned the affidavits. Both evaluators found him oriented, aware of his assets, aware of his family relationships. Madeline's voice dropped. Those recordings aren't real. They are authenticated. Jonathan replied, available to the court. The judge set the papers down and removed his glasses. The pause stretched, long enough for my mother to reach for my father's sleeve. He pulled away. The court finds the decedent competent, the judge said. The petition is dismissed with prejudice. Madeline's breath caught. Wait, the no contest clause is enforced. The gavel came down once. Solid. I stayed seated. My hands were steady. I hadn't realized they were until then. The hallway smelled like old paper and disinfectant. Someone laughed down the corridor, too loud for the moment. My father caught up to me near the exit. "Elena." "Wait." I stopped. Not because I had to, because it felt easier than moving. "You always understood numbers better than us," he said, lowering his voice. "You can fix this. We can figure something out." I looked at his hands. He was rubbing his thumbs together the way he did when he needed a solution fast. "That was never the problem," I said. Madeline came out next, eyes red, breathing uneven. "You set us up." I shook my head once. "I asked you to wait." She reached for my arm, fingers tight. "You can't do this to us." I stepped back, let go. She did. Not right away, but she did. My mother stood by the wall, purse clutched to her chest. "We don't have anything." I opened the door. Cold air rushed in. "You still have each other." My father started to speak again. I didn't turn around. The door closed behind me. The sound was soft. It felt final enough. The trustee called 3 weeks later. The transfer was complete. Accounts settled. Deeds recorded. His voice was steady, professional, already moving on to the next file. After that, nothing rushed in to replace the noise. I sat in my apartment most evenings with the windows cracked open, letting the sounds from the street come and go. A bus braking, someone arguing about groceries, ordinary things. I didn't need to fill the space anymore. The ledger stayed on my desk for a while. I read the last entry once. Not every night, just once. That was enough. I closed it and put it away. I opened my contacts and deleted 3 names, one at a time, no ceremony. I didn't block them. I didn't change my number. I didn't move. The phone stayed face down most of the time. When it buzzed, it was work. Or a friend asking about dinner. Nothing urgent. Nothing from the past. For years, Elena Parker had measured her worth by what she could cover, fix, absorb. Sitting there, doing none of that, felt unfamiliar. Then it felt right. I wasn't lighter, just no longer bracing. That's usually where we stop listening, when the conflict ends and there's no spectacle left. If this story lingers, it's because some endings don't announce themselves. They simply make room.